Winning day number 6 in a row and 22 out of 32 overall was not to be last night, as I was on the wrong side of that bowl game between Western Kentucky and South Alabama, but still can't really complain. I mean, had Eastern Michigan outright in the Potato Bowl the day before over San Jose State. Only guy here at the site with the Packers on Monday night. The Bengals for the second straight Sunday over Tampa with the road comeback on Sunday. And then Friday night, Incarnate World in the FCS semifinals, getting the road cover, a game that they really should have won outright at North Dakota State. So again, I can't really complain. But listen, before I get to your complimentary play here on the Thursday night game between the Jaguars and the Jets, I've got to tell you something. 2 months ago, I could not buy a win over a 6-week period. And I was quite honest with you that it was the worst losing streak I have ever encountered in my 25 years in this industry. The absolute worst. I alluded to the Steve Blass disease. If you go back in time and you look up back in the early 70s, Steve Blass, the pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates, who led them to a World Series triumph, I think in 1972. I was a little kid then watching the Pirates on TV, was just one of the most dominant pitchers in the National League, and then suddenly just lost the ability to pitch. And a couple years later, went into retirement. Now, of course, they call it the yips and everything else. And I swear to God, I could not pick a winner if you had given me the next day's newspaper in advance. I hadn't changed anything. I hadn't done anything differently. And now suddenly, I'm probably the hottest guy here at the site in basketball and football. Nice? Yes. Bad? Yes. And here's why it's bad. The worst thing in this industry is to be a churn and burn, a crash and dive handicapper. A guy that goes like this and then goes like this. Up, down, up, down. It's the worst thing in the world. Gamblers, handicappers, you need to almost kind of be that hamster on the spinning wheel. You want to keep the momentum. You always want that game action. That's what you want as a player, because everybody wants that vicarious through. You want to have that action every single night. You want to win some, you want to lose some, you want to put together extended streaks and turn a profit over the long haul. That's ultimately your goal. But when you go like this, and then you go like this, and then you go like that, it burns out bankrolls. It's the most devastating thing. I am certainly aware of it because I've been on both sides of the fence. I have lost historically bad in those type of runs long before I got into this industry, and I'm aware of those type of runs. And I generally, 99% of the time, avoided those type of devastating plunges throughout my career. This, as I said, 2 months ago, first time I ever had one of those, and it sucked. That's all I can tell you. It sucked. But let's put that in the rearview mirror, please. Let's talk about this game between the Jets and the Jaguars tonight. Listen, guys, I came really close to using the Jaguars here tonight as the 2-point road dog. But there's just a few red flags that have me concerned. This is their third game in 12 days, and it's on the road, and it's going to be in frigid-like conditions at MetLife Stadium, okay? And is it a trap game? Coming off the two big wins, the comeback win in overtime against the Cowboys, the win against the Titans. Let's keep in mind that even though the Jaguars have been playing very well, they have rallied 4 times in their last 6 games to pick up those victories. And is Trevor Lawrence playing some great ball? Absolutely. His last 5 games, 70.4% completions, 1,680 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 1 interception. That boosts his season numbers to 66% completions, over 2,500 yards, 24 TDs, and 7 interceptions. Now, the reason I like the Jaguars here, obviously, tonight is because the Jets are certainly struggling. They've lost 3 in a row, 4 out of 5. They're going with Zach Wilson. I don't have to go into the whole story about where Lawrence and Wilson were drafted against each other a couple of years ago, 1 and 2 in the draft. I don't have to recap about how Wilson beat Jacksonville and Lawrence last year, but it means nothing because we're talking about the here and now. I will tell you that I think it helps tremendously that Lawrence has more offensive playmakers surrounding him than Wilson does. And of course, he's the better quarterback at this stage of his career as well, especially when you consider that Wilson's just making his 9th start of the season. He's looked shaky in all but maybe one of them. And Lawrence is making his 15th start of the season. But Wilson's playing behind a battered, bruised, injury-riddled offensive line. The ground game for the Jets has only averaged 2.9 yards per carry the past couple of weeks. The receiver room, it has its own injury concerns as well. What the Jets do have is a very strong defense, and that has really kept them in the games, and that's been their calling card all season. Jacksonville has a couple of significant injuries on defense. One of their top pass rushers and one of their best run stoppers are both going to be out tonight. But I go back to the offensive playmakers that Trevor Lawrence has. And that, I think, ultimately is going to be the difference here. He's got a couple of good wide receivers. He has Etienne, who's 83 yards shy of 1,000 yards. It's going to be a low-scoring game, I anticipate. And you've got a guy in Doug Peterson who has been in this situation before when he was head coach of the Eagles, taking a team coming off a Sunday game, short preparation for a Thursday night game, perfect in that situation when he was with the Birds, perfect 6-0 on Thursday night games, 5-0 when those games followed a Sunday night game as well. That helps a lot. So I'm going to go and grab the points with the Jaguars plus the 2. Of course, if this line happens to move to 2.5, then I would naturally buy up the half point to 3 and still go with Jacksonville. So that'll do it. I wish you well, guys, and talk to you again soon. Good luck, everybody.